Welcome to the Cherish and Conquer podcast, the show dedicated to celebrating female entrepreneurs' strength, resilience, and innovation. Be inspired by stories of women and what they cherish to help them conquer against all odds. Every other week, you will learn from remarkable women on how they navigate challenges, uphold their values, and create sustainable success. And now, here's your host, Jim Rimbach.
Hello and welcome to the Cherish and Conquer podcast. I'm excited to have this conversation today because we have somebody who has a diverse set of experiences that incorporate love of land and love of people. And we have Katie Smith. Katie, welcome.
Thank you. Thank you so much. I'm really excited to chat with you today.
Now, Katie has a background in marketing, and she's going to talk about, some of the things that she's doing today and how all of that has kind of, formed her thoughts and opinions and her values and the things that's important to her and how she's making a difference in people's lives. And that's what she's going to share with us right now. So Katie, tell us a little bit about how you're making a difference in people's lives with the work that you do.
Sure. So, that's something that I think about a lot is how can I make the world that we're in a better place with the skills that I have. I have a natural inclination to marketing, and the way that I approach it is connection. So it's connecting people with products and services that they need, want to make their lives better. And I work with companies who have that same goal in mind, and they may be worried that marketing actually doesn't feel right or can be misleading. But I work with the companies who want to be truthful and be authentic and tell their real story and connect with people. So I'm a fractional chief marketing officer, and I found that being in the C-suite, being with the executives, helping from the top down is the way that we can infuse this culture of authenticity, this culture of truth telling all the way down, so that it really aligns with the values of the company, with the values of the people that we're connecting with, and we can make doing business, good for everybody involved.
So you actually shared with me a little bit in regards to the experiences that you have had working with different organizations. And and when I thought about those initially, I thought about, how they may not be as receptive to that because, like, for example, you have experience working with a manufacturing organization. Well, when I think of manufacturing, I don't think of what you just shared, right? So how does all that fit?
Right. So I think being a woman actually helps me with this piece because I have such a diverse background and I can bring in a lot of different ways of thinking and different ideas. The manufacturers that I work with, the people that I work with, they're also thinking differently. They have worked in environments where they haven't been valued or it's been a really tough place, and they're starting businesses because they want to come to work every day feeling excited to be with people. One of my clients, one of their mottos is always be humble and kind. And so there are a lot of things changing within the manufacturing world, but the way that business operates, the traditional templates don't fit them right now anymore. So I can help them come in and we just break molds. We do things differently. And I like to figure out, what do they really want to accomplish? What's important to them? And then we build the path forward that way. So we're doing a lot of shifting, a lot of changing the traditional ways. It's really fun. I really enjoy it.
Well, okay. So I would dare to say, based on what you had mentioned right there, is that as far as your entire, say your personal, or your business, marketing process and seeking out right fit, that you've got a pretty important value checklist that you go through to make the determination whether or not you're even wanting to work with those organizations. And I find that's a struggle for a lot of people, especially when they're looking at hey, I need revenue. Hey, I need to make sales. Hey, I just need to take anything, right? But, so what would you say to that, kind of anxiety that exists with that, creating revenue, but yet finding right fit?
Oh gosh, that is such a challenge. I think definitely it takes time. It takes a little bit of trial and error. It takes a lot of faith. So you have to believe that the right fit is going to be coming to you. But the other thing that I've learned throughout the years, and I have taken clients before when I was first starting out on my own that weren't a good fit, and you feel it in your body, and then the work isn't as good. And so there's a lot of trial and error, and I can't, I'm sure that in the future I will make that mistake again. But it's a little bit of a gut check, and I have things written down. You write down when you have a poor experience. It's really important to kind of debrief that, with yourself, with a business manager, with your team, and say, what were the red flags here? What's important to us, and how do we ask the questions in the beginning, in that interview stage, to make sure that we are working with somebody that's aligned with us. And then I think the other piece of it is on your own marketing side, right? That's the hardest thing. But it's okay to signal to your right clients what you're going to say, what you want them to be. It's okay to break the mold, to say things that might turn off somebody and bring in the right people for you. So that's really the past couple of years where I've been focusing a lot of my time, and I've been finding some really great results. I really am enjoying the work that I'm doing. And I think that's important, especially, I work for myself. I have a very small team. And if you don't enjoy the clients, you don't enjoy the work, you're going to get burned out. So that's really important.
Well, okay. So I want to hone in a little bit more on the whole tactical application of the strategy that you're referring to in selecting that right ICP. And you talked about questions and asking questions. Well, that's one element. And so people can, essentially provide you with an answer that you want to hear, like to hear, and you're like, okay, that meets the criteria as far as, question asked and answered. However, the practical application is like, hey, we assessed this, but then reality was quite different when we got in. So tell me how the relationship between assessment and then also expectation setting, because to me, it seems like that's the part. It's like, okay, this is how this engagement is going to work. This is how this relationship's going to work. And, are we mutually agreeing that this is the way that it's going to be? And it becomes part of your contractual obligation. I mean, how are you actually closing the gap between assessment and reality?
Want more insights from female entrepreneurs? Get complimentary access to Marina's Army for additional tips, tools, and tactics from this episode. Just go to Mirina.ai and click Community for access. Now, let's get back to the conversation.
Well, I think a lot can be said for your own intuition. So trusting yourself, trusting your gut, because I have been in that experience where somebody agreed to everything. And I tried to be very upfront. I come in, I don't work in silos. I want to bring in your entire company into marketing. I believe that marketing is here to serve every piece of your company. So, and also I'm not an implementer, right? I'm a strategist. So in marketing, I think that you have implementation and you have strategy, and they're both key. They're both important, and you need to figure out how you're going to do that. So I can help people if they don't have implementation. I can help them. We put that into the plan of how we're going to get that. But if they're not truthful about what implementation looks like, I have run into that before. So now I have that knowledge of how they expressed what they, what their resources were. And I'm like, oh wait, that the way that they express that's a red flag for me. So a lot of it is a little bit of trial and error, and then you have to trust your intuition. So if you have a good feeling about somebody, you feel like they're being truthful to you, or they're not even just truthful, it's understanding. People aren't out there trying to lie, but maybe they don't quite understand what I'm saying, or they're not listening. They just are like, I've heard you're the best. I want you on my team no matter what. And I am the best in certain situations, but not in all situations. So part of that is trying to make people feel comfortable. And I try to use my intuition a lot to assess when I'm interacting with people.
Okay. So, the strategy, and then, being able to implement, I understand that. When it comes to strategy, a lot of times in marketing, and when you refer to the complexities and the way that things have changed so much in the past, just a few years,
Yeah.
and that strategy element, and then the reality that as it sets in, kind of like you were talking about, is, for example, I think some people just think, hey, I need a marketing person to help me to do this. And it becomes just one, task related particular item. And they don't understand, the complexities of the big picture of marketing, today. So if you could kind of give us an understanding of, getting that holistic understanding of marketing as it is today. And maybe you throw and sprinkle in a little bit about where it's potentially going.
Yeah, definitely. So this is such a timely question. I'm working on a strategy right now, and I've come up with a theme. The first, it is everything is connected. That's how you have to think about your marketing. Everything is connected these days. People, your customers, your clients, more and more, they have the power in their hands, and they want to do research without talking to you first. So everything you put out there, it has to be, the messaging, it has to be connected. It has to be leading people down their path. So I really believe in work with customer journey. I think that is key, but customer journey isn't like we're working with humans, right? So we would love for them to discover us, and then we have a little nurture path that they follow, and then they go to the decision stage, right? But we're working with humans. So it's more like a pinball machine, right? They come in at a different place and then they ping around all over. And so it's up to us to make sure that there is content that supports our customers, whatever journey they're on, and they have to be connected. So if you are doing advertising, whatever messaging you have in that advertising, it has to connect to whatever is happening on your website. And it cannot immediately be for a sale, right? People, they want more and more time to learn, to think about, to build trust with your company before they even begin the sales process, even before they contact with you. And they're all doing it differently. So it takes a lot of creativity. And I love, this is where my brain just works really well, is figuring out how do we support our customers on this journey so that they build trust with us, so that they have a better understanding before they get to the sales piece. And every piece of content you put out there has to be connected, because you don't know when they're going to bounce into that content. We cannot, no longer silos, no longer piecemealing our marketing together. Oh, I'm doing advertising here. Oh, I'm doing social media here. Oh, I'm doing some traditional advertising here. They all have to be together.
Well, when you say that, I mean, there's so many things that bounce through my head, and going back to kind of how we started this and finding right fit. When you start looking at getting people into your, let's just say it's a relationship process, because journey can be, I think it could be quite confusing, like you were talking about, and a journey has one of the issues that most marketing people have is a problem with attribution, meaning where did this person come from? And the fact is that they may have come from some type of touch that happened 3 years ago. I mean, and even when we ourselves, when we're going through and we get that survey question where people say, how do you see, how did you find us? It's like, other. I can't remember. I've hit 20 different windows and 20 different things and this, that, and the other. And so, when you start talking about the whole relationship piece, there are different levels of relationship. And, we all talk about, for example, pride of ownership in a home. So that means if I'm a renter, do I have pride of ownership? Well, some might, but typically not. So, okay, if I think about that whole transactional element, versus, branding and impact and longevity. And I mean, there's so many different, organizational personality types. And I think oftentimes people, kind of skip that a little bit. And oftentimes, especially what I see, a lot of female led organizations is they diminish their value and worth, and they try to give sometimes, too much away instead of, hey, that was your opportunity to now sell something, even if it's small. Because what we do know is once somebody does become a customer, it's easier for them to be a repeat customer. So you have to look at your product mix. Your product mix, and it maybe could be something that, hey, this is a high value product, opportunity. And if we just carve that out, maybe sell that for a little bit less, it could lead into an upsell opportunity later down the road. Their strategy can get extremely complex.
Yes. So I have a little bit of a secret weapon up my sleeve. And before I got into marketing, I was an outdoor guide. So I took people who didn't have a lot of experience out into the wilderness. I took them hiking. I took them horseback riding. I took them backcountry Nordic skiing. And there's a lot of thinking on your feet and a lot of forward looking and backward looking, right? So a great example of that, and everything's changing. So if you look at your marketing plan as this kind of static piece, oh, we have this and everything's going to happen. You're going to run into problems, right? We're dealing with humans. Humans are static and they're unpredictable. I mean, they're not static. They're unpredictable. So you have to be aware, you have to be fluid, and you have to learn from them, watch them, and change with them, right? My job as an outdoor guide was to bring people who didn't have a lot of experience into places that I love, educate them about that place, get them excited, and get them to have a really good time. And I think horseback riding is one of the best things. So I'm the lead guide. I'm in my saddle. I'm turned sideways in my saddle the whole day. So I'm looking back at my clients. I'm making sure that they're safe, that they're happy. I'm watching for anything that could possibly be going wrong. And I'm also looking forward and I'm looking around. What's ahead of me? Are there animals? Is there weather? Is there something in the trail that we're going to need to go around? And I'm making split decisions all the time. So that's how I approach my marketing. Same way. When I look back at my dude string, that's what we would call our horseback, the dude string. That's like your ideal customers kind of coming along. They all have a little bit of a different thing. You got to keep your eye on them. They're a little unpredictable, but you have to keep learning and keep open from them. And you're guiding them along, you're figuring out their needs, and you're fixing that. And then you're also looking at the environment and how is that shifting? How has that changed from the last time you were there? It's all dynamic. And so I just take that same approach. We make a marketing plan. Yeah, sure, it's written up, but I use a lot of Google Docs so that we can come in, we can change. Nothing is static. Everything is, we're flexible, we're fluid so that we can react.
I think that's a great analogy. I mean, as you were talking, I started thinking about some of those people, are probably totally terrified that they're on a horse, on a trail, out in the outdoors, and other people are saying, yeah, giddy up, let's go.
Yeah.
You've got to manage it all. Okay. I mean, I really appreciate you sharing that story, and I'd love to hear another one in regards to, really what inspired you to start your own business, and how does it align with Cherish and Conquer?
Yes. So, um, I so this is actually really great. So I found, as a woman who was hired in a business, be hired for my expertise, my knowledge, and I wouldn't be listened to. So they brought me in because they liked, what I said in my interview, or what I brought, and I come in and I want to make change. I want to create new things. But what I found was in my positions coming in, I wasn't always listened to, or change was happening too slow for me. I think a lot of women entrepreneurs can relate, but I was diagnosed with ADHD later in life. And so I have this, I didn't understand what my superpower was. I think of it as, it really gave me a lot of freedom, the diagnosis, and it gave me that ability to claim my superpower, which is I can look up, I can get that 100,000 foot view. I can see where we are now, where we want to go, and I can back plan everything that we need to do in order to make that happen. And I can do it fast. So the way that I work, I am a pretty active person. I think you can tell. And I just want to, I just want to move. I want to be listened to. And what I found is, coming in as a consultant, at the time when I started, same knowledge, people listened to me, and they said what I wanted to do. They were ready to implement those plans. So at the start, it just gave me a different kind of leverage. And now I get to structure my life the way that it fits for me and for my brain. And I think especially with the ADHD, I like to solve different problems. I like chaos. I'm a little bit of a chaos pilot. And so I can come into an organization for a period of time. My goal is not to build the organization around me. I want to build a structure for that organization that they can then run with and live with. So I get the opportunity to work with a ton of different people, and which then enriches my knowledge and my experience. And it just allows me to build my life. It allows me to get the kind of respect that I need to get the work done that I need to get done.
Well, thanks for sharing that. But as I can say, as you were describing how you're able to take that 10,000 foot view and then be able to look, downward and see all the technical elements and components in the ecosystem and put it together quickly. I'm like, well, I can do that. Maybe in other areas, I have, certain challenges that, I think, prohibit me from, having certain accomplishments. It's just, I'm like, okay. And I kind of think that all of us have some form of ADHD. It just seems to me like it becomes very unique to the person. And while I'm not, talking about any type of, medical aspects of this, but I'd really like to kind of understand when you started talking about discovering your superpower and how that kind of fits into, ADHD and your feminism.
Yeah, definitely. So I think there's a lot of things. So ADHD shows up differently in women and girls than it does in boys. So when I was growing up, people weren't looking at that. I was much more of a daydreamer. I wasn't really jumping out of my chair, but I was just doodling. Like, that's how I was doing it. I would have to just write down everything the teacher said in order to pay attention and know what was happening. That's how I took my notes. So I developed a lot of things, but I always felt like there was something wrong with me, because a lot of things were harder for me, or I didn't understand them. Going up, like math, it was really challenging for me, because the way what I learned was, the teacher would put up the problems on the chalkboard, and you would have to go to the chalkboard and figure it out. And I would freeze. There are just ways that my brain works a little bit differently. And for a while, I thought I was always trying to change that, changing how my brain worked, trying to make me more into, what I saw or what I was told was the way that you were supposed to act, the way you were supposed to learn. This is what a successful person looked like. I can't do the same thing every day. For a morning routine, I can't do it. And when I got the diagnosis, it sort of freed me from all of that. And it allowed me to, so I don't think of it as like a bad thing. I think of it as it gave me freedom. It gave me the ability to say, hey, you can figure things out your own way. So I do have a time in the morning where I do morning routine type things, but I don't do the same thing every day. I kind of have a batch of things that I can choose from. So having choice is really important. And then, sure, anybody can maybe do strategy. Not anybody, but a lot of people can do strategy. But the way that I see it, the way that I put it together, I learned is not the same. And the way that I learned this was I have a wonderful colleague who she's incredible. She does business strategy. She calls herself a business co-pilot. And we put together like a beginning of the year business planning workshop. And I said, oh yeah, I'll teach them marketing. And I thought, I'll just teach them my strategy. I'll just teach them my method. It's so simple. It's so easy to follow. I'll just teach it to them. And so I started talking about, you just have to think, and then what happens? That's really what it is. Okay, I put this piece of content out there, people read it, and then what happens? And people were looking at me like I was crazy, like they couldn't, or it took them a really long time to see and to figure it out. And I was like, oh, well, maybe everybody doesn't think this way. So I know that I have a unique way of looking at it. So that's why I work with businesses who want to kind of break the rules of their industry. They want to do something different, because anybody who's learned strategy, you learn the rules, right? And I like to play within the rules because I don't like to do everything the same all the time. So I can see exactly what needs to be done. I can see the most important piece, right? That's the other thing. Marketing, people like to look at the tactics and they think, I have to do this tactic and I have to do that tactic and I have to do this tactic because that's what I've been told. But I don't see it that way. I just see tactics are interchangeable. And what's most important is what's the message, what's most important in our company, and then what's most important to our clients. So your ideal customer is the most important thing. And you have to know not just like the demographics and where they like to get coffee, but you need to know their motivations. What's that psychology piece? You need to figure that out. And then that's where you can connect the dots and you can figure out which tactics are going to work for those people and you can prioritize. And that's what my brain is really good at figuring out fast. So I just, the ADHD, it just allowed me to kind of give myself a lot of grace and to say, hey, my brain doesn't work this way, or this thing is hard. It also allowed me to outsource things that I thought I should be doing. But hey, my brain doesn't work that way. My zone of genius is over here and it's okay. So it was really, really freeing. I don't think of it as like a hindrance or a problem. It just really gave me the ability to just be more the meest me that I can be.
Right. I mean, I appreciate you digging deeper and, uncovering and unpacking that, to the greater detail. And so, and I think, when you start talking about all the things that need to be done in order to have, a successful, whether you're, absolutely if you're a solopreneur, but if you have a small business, delegation becomes, vital instead of trying to carry that full weight and burden on yourself and then maybe I haven't necessarily identified my super, powers and some things that I absolutely should not be doing. I mean, that's a struggle for a lot of people. So thanks for sharing that. Okay, so what are some key lessons you learned? And I think you kind of hit some of those and gave us a glimpse into it a little bit about self-love and its impact on your journey as an entrepreneur.
Yeah. Oh my gosh. It's key. It is so key to take care of yourself because no one else is taking care of you. And it's a unique position to be in, right? So if you're an entrepreneur, your whole life is different than your friends and family who just work at a regular job and aren't the owner of the company or aren't, starting these things. And I think that's really important. This is actually my second business. And my first business, I had a PR company and it failed because I didn't seek out other people. I thought that the ups and downs of entrepreneurship were an experience that only I felt, and that I was the one who was making the struggle hard. The second time around, I found community, and I continue to seek that out. And I think that's so great. Where I live in Montana, there is an incredible women's, it's like a co-working space and a community that this incredible woman created. And it's for women by women, but men are allowed. Men can come in. But it just creates this incredible space of connection. And I asked her, I said, hey, I need a community of women who are in like that high level CEO business, because you're holding space for as an owner of a company, you're holding space for people every day. And who's holding space for you? And she created, we get together once a month, and it's this incredible meeting where you can actually kind of let things down and let things go. There's an incredible amount of trust. So finding those communities and not being afraid to reach out has been the key to my success. And I could not do it alone. I don't know anybody who can. Sharing your stories of even the most successful people I know have shared stories of having a crushing defeat or having struggles. And all of a sudden you say, well, I feel that too. And they were able to get over it, and I can get over it. And that is the only reason that I am still thriving in this business.
Thanks for sharing that. I mean, that's exactly one of the reasons why we created Myrna's Army as a community. It's like, okay, yeah, we have the software and we can help you, create, content and do all these other things using AI and sales, sales messaging and all of that stuff. But, ultimately, those things aren't going to help you, be successful. It's all of the other things that you were talking about. It's, hey, let me bounce ideas off. It's, hey, I'm struggling with something, and having those conversations. And we do the same thing at peerroundtables.com, where senior level leaders are, talking about the humps that we call the humps that we're trying to get over. Right. And I was on one cohort yesterday where it was senior level marketing people in organizations. And they were talking about toxic C-level people that they were having to deal with, CEOs, COOs. And I was like, ultimately, when you start talking about being able to accomplish work, however that's defined, it's so people intensive. It is so. So I would be interested to know, when I start, talking about that example at peerroundtables.com, where we were talking about a toxic CEO, have you ever had a situation where the table kind of flipped on you? Because who knows how people are going to handle stress and growth and or even decline. And so you started working with them and you had this good relationship, and then it soured. Can you have a story about when that happened?
Oh yeah. Yeah. It's a little bit heartbreaking, right? So I was contacted by the executive director of a nonprofit organization who's doing incredible environmental work. And this person is very, very charismatic I thought I was, I saw some red flags, but I was like, I'm just going to be very upfront with my work. This is what I need from you. This is how I work. This is what I do. This is what I do not do. And I brought in actually a colleague because I'm very collaborative. So I brought in a fundraising colleague that I have who's brilliant. We work really well together, and we were very upfront and said, we are consultants, so we will create a strategy for you, but we need someone else is going to need to be implemented. And I think he just wanted help. He was in a dire situation financially. And also he had some other things going on in his personal life that he kind of had glossed over. So we get in there, and he has said that he has all of these connections that for my fundraising partner that she can go to. He's told me he saw all these volunteers who can execute a marketing strategy. And then when it comes down to it, none of that was there. And we had written things into our contract. I had made sure it was, we will deliver this if you deliver this. And he didn't deliver on anything. And he's not a terrible person, but things got really toxic and it got really challenging. And this is actually where I'm curious. I'm wondering if as a woman, like we took on too much as women, I think, in this, because it was a nonprofit. It was a person who was charismatic, but he failed. And then he brought in his board, and we could have he was doing things just not terribly, but he was doing things just fast and loose, which we know working, I've worked with a lot of nonprofits. Things need to be very tight, especially with the finances and what you do with dollars coming in and how things, and we knew a lot of that wasn't getting done. And we could have thrown him under the bus for his board, but we felt like we needed to protect him. And so we walked this really challenging line. We took on a lot of blame. Luckily, we had things written in our contract. It was very frightening. It was so stressful. It made me really ill. And I ignored a lot of red flags. This is one of the, when I say, oh, it's experience and intuition, this is one of the main clients that I worked with that I learned the hard way, and I got through that. And we were able to get out of the contract because I think if you're putting things in your contract to protect yourself very in minute detail, you probably shouldn't take that contract, no matter how exciting you think the work is going to be. But we protected him from his board, and we protected him from some of the things that were going wrong. And he was horrible to us. He had a meltdown like a child. He was screaming things at us. And we just kind of took it, and we still tried to protect him. And I'm unsure about if that was the right thing to do. But I also knew that he was going through something difficult. He's not a terrible person. His nonprofit is thriving. They were able to get through that, but we were not the right people for that situation. And even though we tried to really clearly explain what we did, he just wanted to get people in there. So that was a real challenge. And I wish that we had had more of a community at that time that we could have gone to, like what you're saying, who we could have gotten more guidance. We could have gotten more peers who had maybe been through that before and helped us navigate that, because it felt we were really alone in that.
Yeah, I mean, thanks for sharing that. I'm sorry you had to go through that. I mean, we never know, how stress is going to get responded to from, people who we have to rely upon in order to not have stress take them out. And it sounded like, that was unfortunately for him, one of those situations where, it rendered him almost dysfunctional is what it sounded like. And then therefore, instead of finding a way forward and being able to come to the point of, taking accountability, it was cast outward. A lot of people respond, to stressors differently. Some people just shut down. Some people, just like you say, have tirades. I mean, it's just amazing. And, how you respond to all of those differences. I don't think anybody has the experience to be able to handle that. And then you're dealing with contractual obligations. You're dealing with a board. You want to take the higher road, which, I absolutely commend you for that. But I think you do have a very valid point. Is sometimes we took the road that was too high.
Yeah.
It's like, oh gosh, so I've even seen situations where organizations have put things on pause instead of actually cancellation. So there's a whole lot of different possibilities, and I think I think you have moved forward from that. And will you run into again and be wiser? Absolutely, because it will happen again. It's just going to.
Yeah.
We have to kind of, as you say, expect the unexpected, right? Okay, so I think you hit on an important thing that's oftentimes talked about, and that's just imposter syndrome. So how and what advice do you give for women who struggle with that in their business pursuits?
Oh my gosh. I don't know anyone who hasn't experienced imposter syndrome. And, I think growing up, I was definitely socialized to not really step into the things that I'm good at, to downplay things, to be humble. I think I took that to a bit of an extreme, and which has really been detrimental. It's something that I still struggle with. I always struggle with. So some of the key things are having a good group of people around you who can call you out on it when you are, when you're kind of in that. I feel like it's the way that I think about it is it's below ground. When your brain is thinking below ground, you can't see everything. You can't take on what you're good at. You can't own that. And then having a good group of people to help me get my head above ground again and look around and say, hey, I'm good at this. It doesn't mean that I think I'm the best person who ever was. It means, hey, I can own that I have the experience and knowledge and inclination to do these things really well. And there's a future where I'm going to learn more and I'm going to grow and I'm going to get better, but I can own where I am now. But it's always going to be there. It's always, it's always going to be in the back seat. We can't let it drive the bus.
Yeah. That's, I mean, I can even say for me, that's probably a daily battle. I mean, it never ends.
Enjoying the show? After joining Marina's Army, subscribe and share the Cherish and Conquer podcast on your favorite platform. Thank you. Now, back to the show.
Okay, so awesome information shared, but we're getting ready to actually get a rapid fire sharing of information from you, because we're going to go through the breakthrough blitz. Are you ready to help us break through?
I can't wait.
All right. So what's your favorite productivity tool or app?
This is a good one. It's ClickUp. I use ClickUp. It is, I can make it fit my brain.
What's your favorite way to unwind after a busy day?
I still enjoy riding horses or playing my fiddle.
If you could have dinner with any female business leader, living or deceased, who would it be?
Man, I think I would love to meet Oprah. I think she would be great and just have so much wisdom to share.
So what's your favorite quote or mantra that keeps you motivated?
Oh, I think I just keep swimming.
What's a piece of advice that you would give to aspiring female entrepreneurs?
I'd say build a community around yourself, a strong community that lifts you up, but not blindly. They can give you good advice. someplace where you can be vulnerable and feel supported.
As you say that, I was like, yeah. So don't look at your mom and your sisters and your cousins and your brothers.
No.
Right. They will protect you. Okay, so this is my last breakthrough blitz question. What's the biggest misconception people have about being a female entrepreneur, and how do you address it in your own experience?
So I think the biggest misconception is that you have it all together and you're kind of like this hustling person. And that's been a big one for me to overcome, because I don't have it all together at all. Nobody does. There's just a few things that I do well. And the way that I overcome it is to think about, everybody has a community behind them, supporting them. Everybody needs help sometimes.
Katie, thanks for sharing today. Can you share with our listeners and watchers how they can get in contact with you?
Sure. So I really am active on LinkedIn. My name, of course, is Katie Smith, and there's 100 of those. So if you search for Katie Smith Wild Path, you'll find me. I also have a website, which is followthewildpath.com. You can connect with me there. But I am a marketing nerd. I love talking about this. So I'm really excited to connect and maybe even become part of your community.
Katie Smith, thank you for sharing your knowledge and wisdom, and we wish you the very best.
Thank you so much. It's a pleasure.
Thanks for tuning into the Cherish and Conquer podcast from Marina. Join our community of trailblazing women at community.marina.ai and get access to exclusive resources, checklists, and guides. If you found value in today's episode, please rate, review, subscribe, and share it across your social platforms. See you soon, and remember, barriers are for breaking.